But the use of climate change continues to push us ever further into a beast-like system and closer towards that tribulation. As I said, it is the engine to the train. It's what's driving us forward. We also have these groups like Extinction Rebellion, which I've talked about before, who are funded and controlled by, billionaires. One of them is the Getty family, the Getty oil family, not the pictures, the oil family. They're also feeling this stuff. Extinction Rebellion, if you guys don't know, it's like it's in Europe where they threw the paint at the paintings. They dumped ink into like the pools, specific pools and stuff. They've blocked the traffic and all that stuff. That's Extinction Rebellion that's leading all that stuff in Europe. But Extinction Rebellion mainly preys on young adults. If you notice, most of them are pretty young. Some of them aren't even 20 years old yet, but most of the time they're in their 20s, early 30s. And what they do is they create scenes and chaos to bring attention to the climate agenda. It's not about bringing in change. It's just about bringing notice to the term. This is a psychological thing where they keep feeding you the same term to do it. Like the new normal, that was one of them. Climate change is another. They just continue to feed you a term, and it takes a wear on takes a toll on your mind when you keep hearing the same word like that. Now, the very same agenda developed by the elites from the Club of Rome and the UN and WEF. It's the same agenda, the climate agenda, and those are the guys that formed it. Those are the guys that pushed it forward. UN, WEF, Club of Rome. We've heard them for forever now, and they're the ones that mainly push it. But something I like doing is finding some of the no names, finding some of the no faces that people don't necessarily know about. And one of those people that was heavily involved with this is a guy by the name of Maurice Strong. Maurice Strong. I don't know how many people have heard of this cat before. This is one fat cat, I'll tell you what. We're going to go over his resume in a second. But yeah, this dude is no bueno. This dude is not good. Points for you and a cookie if you know who this guy is. But that is Maurice Strong. Now, just like Jacques Attali, because we did a thing on Jacques Attali, this is a name that you may not know, but he is considered, and I'm not making this up, he is considered to be the creator of sustainability. And he is a driver behind the UN-driven environmental movement. And yes, he gained his wealth through the oil industry. This dude is a Canadian guy who gained his wealth through oil. And he's the one that's leading sustainability and climate change. Interesting how that works. Just like Extinction Rebellion, the climate group is funded by Getty Oil Group. Interesting, right? So, why is this guy important? What has he been involved with? What is his resume? Maurice Strong. I'm just going to read through this, and I'm telling you guys, this is nuts. This is nuts. So, Maurice Strong, he has held the positions of Secretary General, the UN Conference on the Human Environment. That was the 1972 Stockholm Conference. We just talked about with the Club of Rome and the UN back in the 1972. This is what started it all. That was that. He held the position of founding executive director of UNEP, which is the UN Environmental Program. He was also the foundation director for the WEF. Co-chairman for the Council of the WEF. Senior advisor to UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. Senior advisor to the World Bank President James Wolfenschan, Commissioner of the World Commission on Environment and Development, the Secretary General of the UN Conference on Environment and Development, that's the UN said, the Chairman of the Earth Council, Commissioner of the Commission on Global Governance. He was a member of the Club of Rome, board member of the United Nations Foundation. He was a board member for the International Institute for Sustainable Development and chairman for World Resources Institute. That's only a couple. And yeah, couple. This dude is involved with a lot of very bad people, a lot of very bad agendas. I'm telling you what. That's why he's considered to be the creator of sustainability. I mean, you saw that. Secretary General of the UN Conference of the 1972 Stockholm Conference. That's huge. Then you're talking about the founding executive director of the UN Environment Program, foundation director of the WEF, council, co-chairman of the Council of the WEF. He was advisors for the UN Sec Gen and World Bank. I mean, you want to talk about bad on bad on bad, member Club of Rome, all of that. So this is somebody that a lot of people don't know, but he's one of the lead architects, just like with Jacques Attali. It's somebody that's like, who is this guy? But when you look into it, you realize just how important and how vital he is to what we're seeing now with this push. Now, Strong died in 2015, so he's not around. He hasn't been around for a while. But in a letter on his death, Klaus Schwab had some interesting notes, including calling Strong his mentor, and he said that he elevated the WEF to be what it is today. Is that it? That's it. This was basically an obituary written by Klaus Schwab when Strong died. Maurice Strong was the founding father and first director of the UN Environment Program and Secretary General of the 1972 UN Conference on the Human Environment. That's the Stockholm meeting. He deeply incorporated the WEF's mission of improving the state of the world into everything he did. He was a great visionary, always ahead of our times in his thinking. He was my mentor since the creation of the forum. Some people put on the tag that he was actually the co-founder of the WEF, but some people say that he wasn't, so I'm not going to sit here and say that he was, but it seems to point in that direction. Great friend and indispensable advisor, and for many years a member of the foundation board. Without him, the forum would not have been would have not achieved its present significance. This dude's important to ushering in this beast system. This dude's important for what we're seeing today as far as the UN, the sustainability goals, the WEF, the climate change stuff, all this stuff. This dude has been extremely important to all of this, and it's a name and a face that many don't know. I didn't know about this guy until I started digging into it. I didn't know. But you look at how important he is, and again, this is why I talk about don't get wrapped up in the game, the political game, where everybody gets mad at the politicians, the government. That means nothing. They do nothing. They have control of nothing. It's people like him. It's people like Maurice. It's people like Jacques Attali. It's people like Nita Farahani. These names and faces that don't get talked about because everybody is distracted with the game going on over here, the kabuki theater going on over here, and we see who's really leading this stuff. We see who's really leading this stuff. Now, Strong was also closely tied to the WWF, and I'm not talking about the wrestling. I got confused there when I read that too. I was like, what does wrestling have to do with this? No, the World Wildlife Fund. He was the vice president during the same time that Prince Philip was the president of the World Wildlife Fund. Now, this is where we start seeing the same philosophy of these guys, and we see a pretty strong connection. Now, Prince Philip is noted as saying, this is a quote, "Human population growth is probably the single most serious long-term threat to survival. We're in a major disaster if it isn't curbed, not just for the natural world, but for the human world. The more people there are, the more resources they'll consume, the more pollution they'll create, the more fighting they'll do. We have no option if it isn't controlled voluntarily. It will be controlled involuntary." Wow. That's heavy, buddy. That's heavy. But he's also, I don't have a picture for this one, but he's also quoted where he said, "In the event that I am reincarnated, I would like to return as a deadly virus to contribute something to solving overpopulation." Yeah. This dude was bent on reducing the numbers. He was bent on it. And all the leaders, all of the organizations, all the other groups, the elite groups, are all with the same philosophy. Now, we just read a couple of quotes from Philip. So what does it have to do with Strong? Well, like I said, Strong was the vice president of the WWF at the same time that Philip was the president. Now, if we look at a quote, this was in 1990. Strong seemed to have the same mindset as Philip, because if we look at his, it says, what if a small group of world leaders were to conclude that the principal risk to the earth comes from the actions of the rich countries? And if the world is to survive, those rich countries would have to sign an agreement reducing their impact on the environment. I believe we just talked about that with the GHEN agreement. They just did that. Will they do it? Well, okay, well, not the countries, but organizations. So they're going through industry. His is talking about the countries. My bad. Will they do it? The group's conclusion is no. So you're not seeing countries do it, but you're seeing the organizations do it. The rich countries won't do it. They won't change. So in order to save the planet, the group decides, isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrial civilizations collapse? Isn't it our responsibility to bring that about? So that last part there, isn't it the only hope for the planet that the industrial civilizations collapse? And isn't it our responsibility to bring that about? Interesting. He's talking about collapsing the whole shebang. He's talking about collapsing civilization, pretty much. Getting rid of industry, which is interesting. But as we know, somebody who's a part of the climate change and the sustainability development goals and leading all of that, it makes sense. It makes sense. And we're seeing our society, we're seeing our industries and our countries get tore down in various ways, all in the name of climate change.